Yeah, so the project that Greg and I built is called DAOpunks, and effectively what it is that it's a fork of Nouns DAO with three new properties added to it. So the three properties are, first of all, that rarity of attributes is now possible. So every attribute doesn't have an equal chance of being generated each day, but if there's a more rare item, you can now integrate that. We also created a registry, so that way no duplicates can ever occur. So if one new NFT is generated, it can't look like an existing NFT. And then the third and most important new feature that we added is that the DAO that governs the treasury, the community treasury, where all the auction proceeds go every day for the Nouns DAO, it can now be co-governed with an existing collection. So for DAOpunks, what we've done is we've gone ahead and given co-governance rights to both CryptoPunk holders and DAOpunk holders. So one new DAOpunk will be generated each day according to the typical Nounish mechanism. All proceeds go to the community treasury, but that community treasury is going to be co-governed by both CryptoPunk holders and DAOpunk holders alike. And it's perfectly even in the weight of the votes. One NFT from either collection equals one vote. And the artwork is, clearly CryptoPunks inspired. We're using all of the traits and attributes from that was created by Larva Labs. The rarity of those traits is maintained in the DAOpunks collection. So, if a zombie punk DAOpunk appears, it has a 0.88% chance of being generated, same as it would appear in the original CryptoPunks collection. The way this project came to be is that I've had my CryptoPunk. It's now coming up on about 5 years. I bought it for 0.15 ETH, approximately $34 at the time. And it was very cool to see, obviously, the NFT boom happen when it did. But, so many projects were trying to build these community treasuries or have companies backing them. And there were all of these really volatile experiences that was very similar to the early ICO days where, projects might disappear altogether. And the really cool thing about CryptoPunks is that it didn't suffer from that because it never had that to begin with. But the irony of CryptoPunks becoming the largest collection by market cap is that the community itself is totally cash poor. And we get some feedback and jokes around that statement. Obviously, people who hold CryptoPunks aren't personally cash poor, but it's the idea that there's no collective community treasury to create, community initiatives. It's all privately funded. There are some community efforts, but they're niche community efforts as opposed to widespread community efforts. And so we were looking around to see, has anyone solved this? And of course, Nouns has done this better than anyone else by generating a community treasury and, proliferated their IP into so many different mediums of entertainment, like comic books, children's books, action sports events in person, video games, a full-length feature movie. It's insanely impressive. And so Greg and I started talking about, could we bring a Nounish mechanism retroactively to a community that already exists? And so that was the seed of the inspiration for DAOpunks.
CryptoPunk community with the auction mechanism is that now they're able to own treasuries together, right? And then the community can decide how to spend that treasury. And when I first heard about your project, my first question, the first question that came to my mind was, how did the existing CryptoPunk holders react to that? Because usually people would say that, a derivative project are, they're trying to extract values from the existing community instead of create values. But I think your project is a bit different because you are actually trying to add more treasury to the community and to add more values to the existing holders, right? So I'm curious about how you sort of convince the existing CryptoPunk holders to join this movement and to basically to create a new treasury together.
Yeah, it's a great question. We've received responses that are all over the board, really. So we've had people who pretty much from day one got it, they got excited, who are CryptoPunk holders. And a lot of them, we've noticed the trend is that they're already involved in different derivatives or, building out the ecosystem around CryptoPunks in some way. And so for them, this idea resonates pretty quickly and immediately. But you are right, there is sort of this tension that's always existed between CryptoPunk holders and so many other derivative collections because, like you said, most other derivative collections usually they do a 10,000 PFP sale. All the funds raised from that sale go to a community treasury or the creators themselves. And then CryptoPunks, the community, doesn't see any of the financial benefits of that immediately. For some derivative communities like Frankenpunks or Expansion Punks, they've done a really great job of going back and using the community funds to purchase CryptoPunks for their multi-sig, their community multi-sig.
Mm-hmm.
However, that's not common practice, and so there has been this tension between CryptoPunk holders and derivatives. And so when we brought up this project, especially since the artwork looks very much the same, although there, of course, are no duplicates between the two collections, there has been a lot of pushback. And we've been having conversations with CryptoPunk holders for a few months now, and it is interesting how the closer we've gotten to actually launching, there's become more open-mindedness around how this could be used. So, for example, just a few days ago, last week, we launched the testnet. So it's on Goerli. You can go now to DAOpunks .wtf and you can bid on a DAOpunk on Goerli. When we shared this milestone with the CryptoPunks community, someone immediately recommended you're just accumulating a bunch of Goerli ETH. It was first started out very accusatory, well, that's not good to, accumulate this resource since Goerli ETH is a little bit more precious. And then someone else quickly chimed in and said, well, what if we use this Goerli ETH to give to CryptoPunks and create a CryptoPunk holder faucet so anyone who has a CryptoPunk can get some of this Goerli ETH. And so right there, we have our first bit of utility from this project that, wow, now we're accumulating resources. Granted, it's on a testnet, but testnet ETH is even important. So, small bits of coordination have already emerged, even when people feel strongly that this might be a derivative that takes away value. We're actually seeing through action that they are finding reasons to make use of this. And so I think it's going to be a process that takes some time. A lot of CryptoPunk holders we found actually aren't familiar with the Nounish DAO model. And so I think it's also an opportunity to educate, a very select group of NFT holders who are really seen as stewards across the entire NFT ecosystem. And so, it's a learning process, but we are seeing people on all ends of the spectrum, and people who originally started out with some strong opinions against this are starting to come around and have a much more balanced view. So it's been very interesting. The biggest experiment here is probably in the psychology of how CryptoPunk holders end up responding to this overall.
And speaking of utilities, what are some of the projects that you want to do after you launch the collection and launch the auction, and then there will be a bit of ease in the treasury? What are some of the things that you want to fund in the short term?
Greg and I feel that we don't want to be too prescriptive about what we think should be funded right away, but I can talk personally about some opportunities that we see. There are folks who are volunteers in the CryptoPunks community who are not compensated for their work. I think doing retroactive grants is probably one of the best for starting things that can be done. Because it also shows that these funds can be immediately used for people who have already created value within the CryptoPunks community, and it's not starting any sort of lofty goal from the beginning. It's already recognizing value that the community sees currently. I think doing anything with the IP would be interesting if CryptoPunk holders want to license their CryptoPunk or allow it to be used in, say, a CryptoPunks and DAOpunks based video game. or really, we're so inspired by the things that have already taken place in the nouns community. It seems like we could probably begin by following suit with some of those initiatives. Um, but there's other opportunities too, like having booths at conferences or sponsoring hackathons, allowing people to build cool things within the CryptoPunks ecosystem. There's a project called Punks Club, which is like a social network for CryptoPunk holders.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's new features that could be added to that, or there's one member of the community, Beautiful NFTs, he owns CryptoPunks.eth, the domain, and has built a fork of CryptoPunks.app as a marketplace for people to trade their CryptoPunks. And he's created some very cool innovations there, such as allowing people to place bids without it being subject to bid sniping,
Mm-hmm.
which is pretty exciting. He's also played around with some auction house mechanisms for, like what we would see normally on OpenSea, but we don't, CryptoPunks can't, don't have access to the same features on OpenSea unless they get wrapped. And some people feel very strongly about wrapping their CryptoPunk.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's lots of core innovations there that can take place at the market level. But I'll pause there. Maybe Greg has some ideas as well about things that he wants to see happen.
Yeah, I mean, kind of in line with this, Chris had mentioned earlier, there's a lot of different nascent CryptoPunk, derivative communities out there that oftentimes hold CryptoPunks in their respective multi-sig wallets or in their various DAO treasuries. And so at least one of the measures of success that I'm really hoping for and looking towards is just getting a lot of these different nascent communities to have more overlap and have more discussions. Obviously submitting proposals to the DAO is one solid metric we can look at for that. But even just, having this new sort of, mechanism for different communities who are, like I said, right now they're sort of tangentially related. They're kind of, there's core CryptoPunks and there's all these derivatives. Trying to align those different communities as best as we can. And if we can do that through this DAO, then, even just getting them into the same sort of, token gated Discord channels and that sort of thing, I think will be a really big measure of success, at least for me. And I'm personally just really excited to see, what ideas come out of this, what sort of proposals are put up. Like Chris said, we definitely don't want to be too prescriptive early on. We definitely want this to be something that's, community led and community dictated. And we're really excited to see what, people in the community can hopefully, utilize this platform and start developing. So.
Yeah, because I'm part of Purple and now Spooter, like we've also been trying to basically get the communities to submit different ideas, to submit proposals, and to try to fund different projects instead of just trying to dictate what are some of the projects that should be funded. But I also want to say that it is actually very hard for, at least initially, to get people to submit ideas, to get people to care about anything, basically. So I feel like it should be a balance. At least initially, there should be some sort of strategic planning and some kind of top-down planning to tell the community what are some of the things that the DAO wants to do, and it's great to hear the ideas from both of you. And the other thing that I want to talk about is the governance structure. So I understand that this is a fork of the compound governance, which is also what the nouns DAO is using today. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. We had to add a new delegation process to be able to have the existing collection of CryptoPunk holders be able to participate without wrapping their CryptoPunk NFT or signing anything that could expose the NFT to contract risk. But other than that, yeah, it's a fork of Compound, same as Nouns.
Yeah, and it's very interesting that you don't have to do an airdrop to the existing CryptoPunk holders, right? They can just use your existing NFT to vote. And how did that work?
Yeah, so there's a delegation registry that it's just a mapping data structure in a smart contract that allows, like if I go to DAOpunks.wtf and then I click on to the DAO tab at the top, when I click delegate my CryptoPunk, the voting rights that my CryptoPunk NFT is allotted, I choose the address that can vote. And so for the first time that I go to vote with my CryptoPunk, I need to delegate it to myself first. And then once it's delegated myself, if I ever choose to sell my CryptoPunk, I don't have any plans to do that. But if I did sell it, then the person who then acquires it would need to delegate that CryptoPunk vote, the vote that's allocated to the CryptoPunk NFT, to themselves or somebody else in the community that they feel would be, share their values. So then what that allows us to do is when votes are cast, it's very easy to tally up the number of delegations that a voter has between both collections, CryptoPunks and DAOpunks. And this is important because CryptoPunks, the smart contract, doesn't have any sort of delegation mechanism built into it because they're ERC20 tokens. And that's obviously very different than nouns. So DAOpunks follow the nouns standard, but then we use this supplemental registry to list the number of delegations that each voter has.
And you said that it's ERC20 eventually. So when they vote, they're using their ERC20 to vote.
Sort of. Well, it's just that CryptoPunks were created before the ERC 721 standard, right? So they're ERC20. And so what we do is this mapping says, do you own a CryptoPunk? If you do, then you can choose an address that can vote on behalf of that. So then it maps my punk is number 4330. So then it says the voting rights for 4330 are allocated to cbob.eth.
Okay, got it.
And then you can look, and then you can look up the number of delegations that cbob.eth has received from everyone else in the community.
Got it.
Yeah.
So you're not using like ERC 6551 or in any of that sort, right? Like
correct.
Because that would require you to have a ERC 721 first, and then you can use your NFT like as a wallet or something. Because
right,
I think
go ahead.
No, sorry, I was just saying that because this is what the BuilderDAO announced. BuilderDAO is working on. Their collection plus. Probably you know that, and they're trying to use ERC 6551 to onboard existing NFT communities, so that they can claim the DAO's vote just by using their existing NFTs. But I guess in your case, it's a bit different.
Well, yeah. So we've been advising Neocry and Zach over there about how to generalize the contracts that we created, because ours had to be specially written for CryptoPunk holders. But if you wanted to generalize this mechanism, this collections plus mechanism for other existing NFT communities to use, then I think that probably is the right way to go about structuring it. And so we have been in chats with those guys over there about how to build this.
Yeah, it's actually quite exciting. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, I think that's the right path forward is to use a standard like that for existing collections, because most collections are 721 to start with. It's just CryptoPunks aren't. So we had to do something very targeted and specific and custom. And now we're sort of walking that back for the Collections Plus model to generalize it for collections that do have 721 as their base standard.
Yeah. And I think this is a very exciting opportunity for more NFT communities to adopt the nonish model, because I personally am a huge fan of the nonce model, and like it's a constant. It has a constant dilution mechanism, so you always know that the next stage is going to be one more nonce, but it's like an expected inflation rate. So you always know that the community is growing, but it's a measured growth. So I'm actually very excited in this area. And going back to DAOpunks, so the other thing that I want to talk about is tomorrow that you're going to do the official launch, right? So anything that that you look forward to in the next several days, or like how is the launch going to look like?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah. So we've been teasing it quite a bit, especially on Farcaster and a little bit on Twitter, and
Yeah.
definitely among the CryptoPunk holder channels. And we're starting to get more acquainted with folks in Nouns DAO as well, in that community. And so we'll just be pushing out the announcement through those channels. The thing we're most looking forward to is that we look forward to every time Greg and I launch one of our test nets is seeing what the initial DAOpunks look like, seeing what attributes emerge. It takes a very long time for any rare DAOpunk to pop up, and it's always fun to see on a daily basis, obviously, what the new look is going to be. And I think the exciting part about this that does sort of branch out from Nouns is that there is this rarity aspect to it, meaning that whatever price floor is achieved among DAOpunks, it's probably going to be tiered in some way. Same as when you go to CryptoPunks.app, you can scroll through and you can see that there's different price floors for type of punk, if it's male, female, zombie, ape, alien. You can see the price floor for different attributes like a hoodie or a beanie. Punk is very rare. There's also a price floor for like the number of attributes. If they have 3 or 4, that's very common. If they have 5 or 6, that's exceptionally rare. And so just seeing how those tiered price floors start to play out and sort of the games, the economic games that play into that and how people get excited, I think is one interesting aspect. And then the other interesting aspect, of course, that we're looking forward to is seeing which communities this really proliferates through the most. So we probably expect CryptoPunks, the holders will sit on the sidelines for a little bit. Some might place some bids. We see a lot of interest, especially in the Nouns community, a lot of interest in some of the derivative communities. And so just seeing like who are the individuals, what existing communities are acquiring these, because there is this idea of sort of what's your minimum viable community to start a new NFT project. And with this,
100%.
it's not totally clear like how are we measuring that, because there's sort of all these different communities that have aligned interest in seeing this succeed. And so how do they all begin to interact with each other and sort of begin to come to consensus and begin communicating, coordinating with one another to sort of understand what this project could mean when it's spread across so many different communities at once.
Yep. Anything you want to add, Greg?
Yeah, no, like Chris was mentioning, it can be quite addicting to see the daily auctions because, like I said, they're totally randomly generated with the original rarity of attributes and types from the OG collection mapped, right? So you can expect as much as, that the rarity is going to be consistent, but in terms of like what each DAOpunk looks like on a daily basis, it's totally random. So, it's fun that it's also a surprise for Chris and myself. And then you were touching on kind of the launch and what that looks like this week. So like Chris mentioned, we're going to be pushing this out through a number of channels. And then sort of the penultimate sort of, climax towards the end of the week is the Beeple CryptoPunks event happening in Charleston, South Carolina. This coming Saturday is happening. So our plan is to kind of, share this out and get as much traction as we can throughout the week. And then we will both be at the event this coming Saturday to obviously just, talk about and celebrate, I think, CryptoPunks as a whole, but obviously, talk with people in the community about sort of the this new DAO that we've built as well. So that's sort of how the week is going to be wrapping up. And then, we're just going to continue to be stewards of the project and continue to talk about it from there.
Fantastic. I want to use the last maybe 5 to 10 minutes to hear a bit about sort of the backstory of both of you, because obviously it seems like you guys have been around for a while and have put a lot of thoughts into DAOs and on-chain communities and Web3 in general. So I would love to hear a bit about sort of initially how did you get into the space? What was your involvement in a space like in the past several years? And if there's any other project that you're working on at the moment.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I got into the space while I was in college. I was kind of falling down the typical rabbit hole. A lot of early members of the community, fell down, which was, being frustrated with quantitative easing and I don't know, all the basic terrible mechanisms of our financial system that introduce opportunities for corruption. So when I got into the space, it was really just Bitcoin was the only thing that was out there. In 2012, 2013, I wrote my senior capstone on Bitcoin. Arguably, it's probably one of the first academic papers or anything on Bitcoin. And from there, I was pretty well hooked. I volunteered with the Mastercoin community for a little bit, which Vitalik also spent some time in that community, and that was part of his inspiration for creating Ethereum. Mm-hmm. Once the Ethereum white paper was released, I was hooked. It was like day one when that came out. It made perfect sense to me because I had already seen the attempts of creating smart contracts on Bitcoin and how that had failed, or at least what the limitations of that were at the time. And starting from the early days of Ethereum, I began reaching out to and contributing to becoming team members of some of the early ICO projects. Namely, Horde was one that I was with for a long time that was an early NFT exchange and software development kit for video game developers. I also worked with Golem and Golem Foundation, Omisego, which later became OMG Network. And then I created a platform, a protocol called Me Tokens, which is a social token platform, which is live on mainnet now. I've spoken at a number of NFT events and Ethereum events in general, including NFT NYC. Most of the ETH Global events I've been to or spoken at, and DevCon as well.
Nice.
Yeah. I can get a little bit about my background. So would have been 2012 or so. And I'm pretty sure the first person I heard it from was Chris. So Chris and I have been very good friends for 10 plus years at this point. And so, yeah, kind of college era, learned about it for the first time, started, dabbling with a little bit of mining operations and just sort of, trying to understand the technology a little bit. And then I was kind of in and out of it for a number of years, so I continued to follow it, but was kind of moving around a lot at that time, and then kind of got more fully ingrained in 2017 when I joined Coinbase. So I was at Coinbase for about 3 years, and so my background's actually in data science, data analytics. So I did a lot of data analytics type work for Coinbase, kind of during some of their hypergrowth years, which was an awesome experience. And then, yeah, after Coinbase, I worked for a number of crypto startups. So I had a short stint at MoonPay. I was at Binance US for a couple of years, and then most recently I was over at Wire, similar product to MoonPay over there. So doing a lot of the same type of work, a lot of data analytics support for some of these hypergrowth Web3 companies. And then more recently, kind of related to NFTs, I've been kind of a long-term Moonbirds holder, so I'm part of the Moonbirds community. Was part of the Proof Collective as well for since the genesis for a while. So was really deep into NFTs during kind of the last sort of hype cycle that we've had. So yeah, kind of all of that that background leading into and led into Chris and I kind of wanting to put together a project and try to contribute to this ecosystem in a really a positive some way. And so yeah, anyways, really excited to finally roll this out and to kind of see what happens with it.
Very cool. And I guess at the end of this space, any last words or anything that you want to say to the Farcaster community?
Sure. We're currently running a contest on testnet right now. So between now and the Beeple event, so there'll be a DAOpunk that's generated on September 30th during the Beeple event, and that will end the very next day on Sunday. Between now and the concluding bid for that DAOpunk, whoever has the highest winning bid for a DAOpunk on the Goerli testnet will receive a mainnet DAOpunk when, not immediately at the time that we launch. We'll need to accumulate like a DAOpunk. We need to procure one, but we will like assume it'll be within the first 30 to 60 days of the network going live. Whoever has the highest bid on Goerli will receive a mainnet DAOpunk.
Very cool. Anything from you, Greg? Any last words?
No, I think we've covered most of it. Just yeah, definitely. If you haven't yet, check out DAOpunk.wtf. Like Chris said, we've got the promotion going on. So if you happen to place the highest Goerli ETH bid for a testnet DAOpunk, you could land a mainnet DAOpunk. So, and we're launching tomorrow. So yeah, just really looking forward to it.
Really looking forward to the launch tomorrow. And wish you guys absolutely the best luck. This has been a fantastic conversation. I really enjoyed learning from both of you, and really looking forward to see how this project evolves. And as I said, this is literally the frontier of on-chain governance in on-chain communities in general. So, thank you for your time, and then I'll see both of you on Farcaster.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it. Thanks, Bill.